President Trump is doubling down against Joe Biden and his claims that he is the best candidate for African-American voters. The president tweeting this, quote, "In 3.5 years, I've done much more for our black population than Joe Biden has done in 43 years. Actually, he set them back big time with his crime bill, which he doesn't even remember. I've done more for black Americans, in fact, than any president in U.S. history, with the possible exception of another Republican president, the late, great Abraham Lincoln. And it's not even close. The Democrats know this, and so does the fake news, but they refuse to write it or say it because they're inherently corrupt," end quote. Well, joining us is our company, Pastor Darrell Scott. He is the co-chair of Black Voices for Trump 2020, and Jack Brewer, a former NFL player who is a Minnesota business owner. Gentlemen, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, before we get to some of these tweets, I want to read to you a quote that Charlemagne the God, who is one of the hosts of the Breakfast Club, he had on Biden and his famous gaffe that you ain't black if you don't vote for Biden. But I want to read what he said yesterday on CNN. He said, "I think you know Biden's record in the Senate actually reflects very racist legislation, but he has a chance to correct that by doing right by black people," end quote. Well, Sean interviewed the president earlier, and he mentioned this, and he mentioned it in his tweet as well, that Biden has been in office for decades, yet what has he done to change systemic racism? Do you think this is going to be a sticking point at all for black voters? Is this going to come up more and more? Jack?
Definitely. I mean, it has to. I mean, you see Black Lives Matter, and I hope the president comes out and makes a statement and says, you know, Black lives matter to me so much that I passed criminal justice reform. Black life matters to me so much that I actually passed opportunity zones to go into the very communities that we're protesting for. Black lives matters so much to this president that he actually saved and established our HBCUs for long-term success. So Black lives matters to this president. I hope he comes out and says it directly to the American people so we can get away from this division. You know, politics are made for policy. But politics cannot fight spiritual war. We're going through a spiritual battle that has nothing to do with the president. We're fighting the evils of racism. We're fighting the evils of murderers in the street. And law and order is the only way you do that. But policy is for politics. We got to fight these spiritual wars in the spirit, because this is the deep-rooted issue that we have in our country that cannot be fought with flesh and blood.
Pastor Scott, I actually asked the president about this, what he's done for African Americans, and does he get the credit or not for this? Let me have you take a listen.
You know, you've been a champion of opportunity zones. You passed criminal justice reform, add increased funding to historically black colleges. As a property owner, you opened a club that welcomed blacks and Jews at a time when others wouldn't. Does it hurt you to know that some people don't recognize that? And what else could you be doing to help unite the country and heal people?
If you look before the plague came in from China, which should have never happened, they should have never allowed that to happen. But before that happened, we had the best black unemployment rate in the history of our country, more home ownership, more everything. In every way, African Americans were in better shape than they ever were. And they will be again very soon, because the numbers are going to start going up very soon. I did it once, now I'll do it again.
Pastor Scott, you heard his answer. You heard what Jack said. Here's the thing that I'm wondering, and Jack, I don't mean to speak for you, but is it just the record, or does he need to say more about and recognize the healing that needs to occur and empathize more, or is it the record can stand on its own?
I think that, you know, we don't want the president. He's not going to get out of character in his responses to this. I think his empathy has been demonstrated. He's made some tweets, and he's reached out to George Floyd's family, and he's been very empathetic regarding this entire situation through sending in the Department of Justice and sending in the FBI to see if any human rights or civil rights were violated, to see if the federal government has an inroads into this case. But looking at his record, and I said this a couple of years ago, this president is endeavoring to endear himself to the black community. I mean, the last president didn't think he had to. The last president didn't think he had anything to prove. But this president doesn't want to be a president that simply gives lip service. Through positive policy and positive actions and positive activities, he's clearly demonstrating the fact that he is being proactive regarding the black community. And I really believe that the works that he does on behalf of the black community speak a whole lot louder than any words that he might speak.
Gentlemen, we're almost out of time. I want to ask you a very simple question. Does Joe Biden, based on the current circumstances, need to pick a black running mate? Jack, I'll start with you.
Unfortunately for his base, who are focused solely on identity, I think he does, which is sad for me to even say. The fact that we have a man who passed the 94 crime bill and mass incarcerated blacks and has been against school choice, basically keeping our kids in the inner city segregated. The fact that he's even the candidate and then getting up in front of the president and talking down upon him, it's really sick. I just want to say I applaud the president for raising that Bible up yesterday, because he knows, and he was telling the world, we're fighting a spiritual battle and we're not going to fight it with flesh and blood, and we can only fight it with that Bible that he held up. So I applaud him for that.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate your input. Look forward to having you back.
God bless you.
All right. Well, up next, we continue with our series, Blocked and Banned.